Hi, my name's Phil. I like talking about politics, and in this video, prompted by a comment on another video, I like to discuss the choices that a lot, even the majority of voters face, and how nobody really has the option of voting for what they want. I don't even mean in the UK's unrepresentative elective system either. It's just the nature of democracy. You can't vote for what you want. So it very frustrates people when they think they should be able to. What you can vote for is what you least oppose. But first, if you'd like to be notified of daily news and politics, please subscribe to the channel. So I got a comment which went along the lines of asking if a Labour government was really the answer to, in this case, Brexit problems. Now, on this occasion, it was about Brexit, could easily be about any number of other policy areas. Take Brexit, for example. If you are aware of the actual impacts of Brexit and equally aware that although some can be improved in line with Labour's policies, we cannot get back the competitive edge we once had outside the single market and customs union, and especially if you know someone who has a business, or if you have a business yourself that is not going to survive the next 2 years outside the single market, of course there's a real urgency there. And you will absolutely not see Labour as ticking your boxes on Brexit because, well, we need to get back in the single market. They're saying we're not going to. And I have argued that what Labour are proposing is what any government who wants to rejoin the EU would have to begin doing anyway. As far as I'm concerned, Labour are on the same journey. They just claim that they will stop short of the ultimate destination. My attitude is that as long as they're going in that right direction, what is the problem? It's not like the Conservatives are. They're going away. And if Labour do at any point stop and go no further, we can argue then. But that's by the by. The point is that Labour are presenting policies which won't actually meet with the approval of anyone, particularly those who take the time to understand politics. But neither is any party, and it couldn't actually be any other way. The leaders of every political party with representation in Westminster, they're pursuing policies which even they don't think are the best in all cases. The nature of democracy is that if you want to win, you have to do what your voters want. And I also understand that relatively few voters support either Labour or the Conservatives, even though the vast majority vote for one or other in each general election. I'm a Labour supporter, not because I just prefer them to the Conservatives, but because I actually align with Labour values. If you had 5 parties, or with roughly equal shares of the vote, I would still be a Labour member. Some people will ask how I can support Labour under all of these different leaders, from Blair to Corbyn and everything in between, because they're all so very different. But it's because they actually promote the same basic policy outcomes. They all had different ideas about how to achieve them, but I worry less about methods, and they're very different in some cases. I align more with some than others when it comes to the vehicle, but they all pursued the same outcomes. And anyone who has spent any time listening to me knows I am all about the outcomes. What are you going to achieve? I don't care what you want to achieve. What are you going to achieve? Care nothing for people's motivations. You can be motivated to do good and still cause untold suffering. I don't care what they wanted to do if what they actually did was create suffering. Piss off out of politics. You're bad at it. I prefer a bad person being forced to do the right thing because public pressure forces them than a good person who makes things worse because although their heart is in the right place, their brain is missing in action. But I get that most people are not actually partisan at all. They just want to vote for improvements. I get that of those who are partisan, many have a choice of voting for their preferred party and actually increasing the chances of getting their worst option, or voting pragmatically to stop the worst option by voting for someone they don't really approve of. It's like, it's unfair. Which do you do? Do you vote for the candidate that most appeals to you, that most represents you? They have no chance. What you'll get is the one that least represents you. Or do you vote for credibly the one that's best aligned, but you don't like them either? They're just the lesser of two evils for you. You're just accepting the least bad option. It stinks. And it's why we should change our system of elections. But no system is perfect. No system guarantees that someone can vote for their preferred choice because no political party can please you entirely. Even if we had PR, and I'll be throwing my weight behind that, political parties will still not align with you. No matter the electoral system, if a party wants to even have a seat at the table of government, they're going to need millions of people voting for them. Anyone ever been part of a committee? If so, you will know that you cannot even get a dozen people to agree on something controversial. You always need to compromise for any difficult decision to be made. Well, how much more impossible is it to align with millions of people who are not even discussing it directly with you? It's never happening. Democracy, no matter the system used, is never a choice of what you want. What you want is never on offer, because what you want is different to what the other 30 million voters want. It's not what you want, it's what you least oppose. It's just that if we had a system which had more respect for your vote, there's a wider selection of what you least oppose. With our first past the post system, in the vast majority of constituencies, you have a realistic choice of two. If you vote for anyone else, it's like you're spoiling your ballot. It's better than not voting at all, at least you're counting as voting. But it is, you may as well have spoiled your ballot. There are some constituencies which can generally be a 3-horse race, but they're so few in number, really not worth mentioning in the context of forming a government. With PR, you would always have a choice of more than 2, maybe half a dozen, but certainly more than 2. You'd have more choice, but you still wouldn't have the choice of exactly what you want. The party or independent candidate you vote for will still have policies that you think are suboptimal at best if they have any realistic chance of winning. And you may think they're regressive, but you'll vote for them because on the balance of their offer, it's the best you can realistically get. The problem is that some people come at their voting decision backwards. They see the obvious least bad option for them, but unhappy that it's good enough, effectively voting in the obvious worst option. They don't do this by literally voting for the worst option, but by voting for a candidate whom they think is more closely aligned with their beliefs. But a vote spent on an also ran when it might have been spent on the least bad credible option is a boost for the worst option. It's an unpleasant situation for non-partisan people to be in. It's partly why what I want is for there to be clear alignment between the public's and Labour's interest for electoral reform during the next period in government. I don't want to be waiting a long time on this. If we reform the electoral system, obviously it has to be very clearly in the public's perceived interest in order to win popular support. But it has to be in Labour's interests, and for them to see it as in their interest because they have to be the vehicle that delivers it. Labour are interested in changing the system just to give more representation to the Lib Dems and Greens. My argument is it is the only way to preserve their upcoming reforms, but that argument has to be made in a way which convinces the leadership. But in the meantime, if people are flexible about where their vote goes, as many are, then it really is a case of weighing up your realistic options. Politics isn't about making a utopia. It's not going to happen. This is unfortunate. It's unfortunate that people will look at a party and go, I agree with 98% of their policies. Oh, but there's those few that I don't, so I'm not going to vote for them. No country in the world just works perfectly. There's the happiest countries in the world. Their political systems are representative. Surprise, surprise. Their populations are generally well informed. There are still cock-ups. There are still injustices. Politics is about making things either better than they are right now or worse than they are right now. When people decide where to put their tick on the ballot paper, that is the decision to be made. None of us have the choice to make everything great. Some of us might think we'd make everything great if only we were put in charge, but people that think like that, surprise, surprise, are never put in charge. Because unless you have a loyal army capable of taking over the country, you will never have that choice. And even then, it could be argued that you would do more harm than good by literally imposing martial law on the country. You will be happy, or it's the firing squad in the morning, has never really worked as a system of government. So we don't have the choice to make things great. We only have the choice to make things better. But some people, as the saying goes, tend to make the good the enemy of the great and end up playing handmaiden to the worst. But there we are. Those are my thoughts. Let me know yours in the comments below. Hope you found the video interesting. If you did, please click the like button. And if you'd like to support the channel further, the join button for memberships. And until next time, I'll see you later.